Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Welcome everyone to ISV, and we welcome everyone who's online tonight. Thank you for joining us over the internet. I hope you're warm and dry somewhere listening to Krishna Katha tonight. If you'd like to text in, we'd be eager to hear from you. The number is 650-245-7018. Somebody bring me a case of this Caitanya Charitamrta. Also, special service announcement for tonight. We're going to be passing out through the internet tonight. No, the whole case. Sundarananda? The whole case. Not that, the whole case. It's right there. Of Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. This is the rarest book, was the rarest book on the planet. Now it's becoming more available. Here it is. The entire Sri Caitanya Charitamrta is in this box. And for some crazy reason, we're giving them away for only $99. I don't know who started that. They should maybe be examined by a psychologist to see if they're sane. But in any case, that's the way it is. For those of you who are elsewhere and who will be taking these, there's a little bit of shipping added on. It's not very much. It's not a very heavy case, but the knowledge is heavy. It is the most important book anywhere in the universe. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that if all the other books were thrown in the ocean, there would be no loss if the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta remained. And it was a book that was revived by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who found the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta and brought it back to prominence. So did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And now, of course, because of the massive campaign started by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this book is fully illuminated in its entirety, and it's got all the volumes and purports and everything like that. And leading up to Sri Gaur Purnima, we have a warehouse full of these books. It's our prime intention to popularize the reading of Sri Caitanya Charitamrta, and even if one doesn't have time to read it, it's a worshipable deity. The book itself is a deity of Krishna, and by keeping it in one's home, the rays emanating from the book itself will purify everyone in your household and will bring good fortune to your whole family. It opens the white lotus of good fortune, in fact, and that's a good thing. So text in at 650-245-7018. Let us know how many cases you'd like. You can take them 5 cases, 10 cases, and distribute them to your best friends, to your relatives. Make sure everyone has one. Make sure you have one too, because it's really a regulative principle to have all of Prabhupada's books. And it's a good time to start by having a Caitanya Charitamrta set in your home. I'm going to keep this one right by me. You can text in at 650-245-7018 and order as many cases as you like during the day. We have operators standing by to take your texts, and they will honor your credit cards over the phone. We'll get right back to you. So please call in. Thank you very much.
Are these the bigger set or the set?
Oh, is that what it is?
Is it the big one?
Oh, that's even better. We still have these.
The ones
Is that
that
the size it is?
No, a little bigger.
Oh, it's a little bigger.
Thinner.
It's all in here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll take one.
Haribol! Okay. One set of Sri Caitanya Charitamrtas sold to Shraddha Devi Dasi in the front row. Thank you very much. That's an auspicious
I
start.
got 2 text messages, but they are not for the purchase of the
That's
books,
okay. We're welcoming all
yeah,
text
they're very sweet
messages tonight.
Yeah. So we have Shyamlangi Mataji. She has to attend the class online today, and so
Okay.
she's offering her humble obeisances to you and to all the devotees here.
Oh, wonderful.
And Nikhil Prabhu from Ranok, he says that it's so nice to see you.
It's nice to hear from you, Shamalangi and Nikhil. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we're continuing with the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita reading. And welcome. Is this your first time here?
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Where are you coming from?
I come from France.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yes, and an announcement?
Parthasarthi Prabhu would like to sponsor one case of Chaitanya.
Parthasarthi Prabhu is sponsoring a case of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. Thank you very much, Parthasarthi Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Nice. So we only have we only have 23 to go between now and the end of the class. So do text in at 650-245-7018. They're only $99 for the full set of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, and take 5 sets, 10 sets, and distribute them to everybody you know before Gaur Purnima. Last night on a conference call, we covered the first 22 verses in the second chapter of the Adi Leela of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. And we're going to continue on reading from text number 22. And this chapter is all about Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Seta Govinda Sakshat Chaitanya Gosai Jiva Naistarite Aiche Dayalu Aranai. That Govinda personally appears as Chaitanya Gosai. No other Lord is as merciful in delivering the fallen souls. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Having described Govinda in terms of his Brahman and Paramatma features, now the author of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita advances his argument to prove that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the identical personality, the same Lord Sri Krishna in the garb of a devotee of Lord Sri Krishna, descended to this mortal world to reclaim the fallen human beings who had misunderstood the personality of Godhead even after the explanation of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, directly instructed that the Supreme is a person, that the impersonal Brahman is his glowing effulgence, and that the Paramatma is his partial representation. All men were therefore advised to follow the path of Sri Krishna, leaving aside all mundane isms. Offenders misunderstood this instruction, however, because of their poor fund of knowledge. Thus, by his causeless, unlimited mercy, Sri Krishna came again as Sri Chaitanya Gosai. The author of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita most emphatically stresses that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Krishna himself. He is not an expansion of the Prakash or Vilas forms of Sri Krishna. He is Swayam Rupa Govinda. Apart from the relevant scriptural evidence forwarded by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, there are innumerable other scriptural statements regarding Lord Chaitanya as being the Supreme Lord himself. The following examples may be cited. From the Caitanya Upanishad, Gaura Sarvatma Maha Purusho Mahatma Mahayogi Trigunatita Sattvarupo Bhaktim Loki Kashyati. Quote, Lord Gaura, who is the all-pervading supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears as a great saint and powerful mystic who is above the 3 modes of nature and is the emblem of transcendental activity. He disseminates the cult of devotion throughout the world. From the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Now, isn't that a beautiful verse from the Caitanya Upanishad? I'll just read it, the translation again. Lord Gaura, who is the all-pervading supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears as a great saint and powerful mystic who is above the 3 modes of nature and is the emblem of transcendental activity. He disseminates the cult of devotion throughout the world. Everyone likes a saint or a powerful mystic. Saints are attractive. And when God comes in the form of a great saint, it is convenient for those living in the material world to follow such a person and to give their attention to his teachings. And when one does so in the case of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, one has the added benefit that he's following and worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.7 and 3.12, Tam Ishvaranam Paramam Maheshwaram, Tam Devatanam Paramam Jadaivatam, Patim Patinam Paramam Parastad, Vidam Adevam Bhuvanesham Yidyam. O Supreme Lord, you are the Supreme Maheshwar, the worshipable deity of all the demigods and the Supreme Lords of all lords. Supreme Lord of all lords. You are the controller of all controllers, the personality of Godhead, the Lord of everything worshipable. Mahan Prabhur Vai Purusha Sattvas Yaisha Pavartakaha Su Nirmalam Imam Praptim Ishano Jyotir Avyayaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Mahaprabhu, who disseminates transcendental enlightenment. Just to be in touch with him is to be in contact with the indestructible Brahmajyoti. Number 3 is from the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.3. Yada Pashya Pashyate Rukmavarnam Kartaram Isham Purusham Brahmayonim. One who sees that golden-colored personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Actor, who is the source of the Supreme Brahman, is liberated. From Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.33 through 30 and 34 and 7.9.38. Deyam sada paribhavagnyam apishtadoham tirtasparam shiva varinchinutam sharanyam Prityartiham pranatapala pababdipotam vande mahapurushate charanaravindam. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of him, the Lord upon whom one should always meditate. He destroys insults to his devotees. He removes the distresses of his devotees and satisfies their desires. He, the abode of all holy places and the shelter of all sages, is worshipable by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. He is the boat of the demigods for crossing the ocean of birth and death. Tyakva sadusyaja surechita raja lakshmim dharmishta arya vachasa yadagararanyam mayamragam dayita yepsitaman vadavad vande mahapurushate charanaravindam. Did we bring the PowerPoint of Paramakaruna back from across the ocean? Do we have it here? Oh, that would be good. I would like to sing that tonight. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He left his householder life, leaving aside his eternal consort, whom even the denizens of heaven adore. He went to the forest to deliver the fallen souls who are put into illusion by material energy. Yeah, so those 2 verses we just read are from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they were spoken by Karabhajana Muni. And they're interpreted variously by various acharyas who have looked at these verses in various ways. And actually, when observing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's form as Sadbhuj, these verses accommodate the Sadbhuj form because, as an example, the verse Tyaktva Sadusyaja Surechita Raja Lakshman, this verse indicates, according to the Acharyas, 3 of the manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tyaktva Sadusyaja Surechita Raja Lakshman. So he gave up, means Tyakva Sadusyaja, he gave up the goddess of fortune, means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in that he left his home in Navadvip. He was married to Vishnupriya, Lakshmi Priya. He was the hometown hero of Navadvip. In any case, he left it all behind and he took sannyas. And he gave up the goddess of fortune. Similarly, Lord Ram, who gave up Sita, and we have Tyaktva Sudusya Jasarepshita Raja Lakshmi, Dharmishta Arya Vachasa. Dharmishta Arya Vachasa means, on the words of the Arya, means the Brahmana. A Brahmana gave a curse to Caitanya Mahaprabhu after he couldn't get into Srivasangam, because the devotees were chanting there and they allowed only the most intimate associates. So one day a Brahmin came and said, "Let me in." And they said, "No." And he said, "Then you're in big trouble." And the next day when this Brahmin saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaurasundar at the Ganges, he cursed him and said, "You'll never have happiness in material life." And he broke his Brahmin thread. And Gaurasundar became very happy that I'll never become entangled in material life. And on the words of that Arya, of that Brahmana, he renounced the world. The devotees are always looking for an excuse. They're right on the edge and they're just looking for that little excuse. Like Vidura, when he was insulted by Duryodhan. And at that time he said, "Oh, there's my chance." And when Prabhupada's wife sold his Bhagavatam, apparently, that was a good enough excuse. It's like, okay, I'll go spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Bye. And Prabhupada calls that transcendental fraud. And right in the Bhagavatam, that's what he calls it, transcendental fraud. So we should always be looking for an opportunity to commit transcendental fraud. That is fraud to material energy, because the material energy is a fake out anyway. And she's trying to pull a fast one on us. So better we pull a fast one on her before she pulls a fast one on us. So Mahaprabhu did that. And also Arya Vachasa, on the words of his father, Lord Ram, left for the forest. He went away, gave up his kingdom that he was about to be handed, because his father said, "Go to the forest," because he had to honor the boons he had given to Kaikeyi. And Lord Krishna, Arya Vachasa, it was said that there would be trouble and from the demons, and so they should go into Gokula. And on the words of the great sage who had performed his birth ceremony, they went into the forest. And then Dharmishta Arya Vachasa Yadagaranya Mayamragam Daiti means Mayamragam has three meanings according to the acharyas that indicate the three different lords, Lord Krishna, Lord Ram, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mayamragam Daiti Yepsita. Anvadavad. Anvadavad means the forest. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chased after the living entities in Kali Yuga who are very materialistic, almost like animals. So he actually chases after them to give them mercy. And for Ram, he chased after the deer, who's a mrigam, who's an animal. The deer that was presented by Maricha to distract Ram and Lakshman so that Ravana could steal away Sita. And then Lord Krishna is said to be like a toy animal in the hands of the residents of Vrindavan, because he's so much controlled by their love. There's Mayamrigam Dayati Ipsitam Anvadavad, that he's controlled by them. So in this way, there's a commentary by the acharyas who explain this verse as it meaning Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, and Lord Ramachandra. And of course, Caitanya Mahaprabhu also manifests his form as Sadbhuj, where he has 6 arms, 2 of Ramachandra, 2 of Lord Krishna, and 2 of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Caitanya Mahaprabhu is holding a staff and a water pot. Lord Ramachandra is holding the bow and arrow. And Lord Krishna is holding the flute. And so this verse indicates that, Sadbhuj. So you can worship Caitanya Mahaprabhu really nicely with that verse and the previous one. Deyam Sada. And the next verse is from Prahlad Maharaj. Itam Dhritirya Grishideva Jashavatarar Lokan Vipava Yasi Hamsa Jagat Pratipan Dharmam Mahapurusha Pas Yuganuvritam Chanakalo Yadabhavas Triyugota Sattvam. My dear Lord, you kill all the enemies of the world in your multifarious incarnations in the families of men, animals, demigods, rishis, aquatics, and so on. Thus you illuminate the worlds with transcendental knowledge. In the age of Kaliyo Mahapurush, you sometimes appear in a covered incarnation. Therefore you are known as Triyuga, one who appears only in 3 yugas. So when Caitanya Mahaprabhu first went to Jagannath Puri, he met by chance, by his arrangement, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When Mahaprabhu had gone first to see Lord Jagannath in the temple, he fainted in ecstasy when he saw his Lord. And inside the temple, the guards didn't take to that very well. So they were about to beat him with a stick. They have sticks, and they try to keep some order inside the temple. So they didn't like this display. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya happened to be there, and he saw Caitanya Mahaprabhu faint, and he saw he was a beautiful young sannyasi. So he went over and protected him from these guards, and then had him taken to his house. And in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's described that his being carried to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like when ants, the long line of ants, carry a piece of food or something like that. They pass it from one to the next. So there were so many devotees, and they were each passing along the transcendental body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu till they got to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then the devotees, Gopinath Acharya came, and Lord Nityananda, and the other devotees that had been traveling with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had gone behind him due to an incident that happened where Nityananda Prabhu had broken Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's new danda, and Mahaprabhu became angry, and he said, I'm not going to travel with you anymore. I'll go in front or behind, but go separately. You're disturbing me too much. So he went ahead. So they came behind, and then when they found that he was at Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, they came and revived him by chanting Hare Krishna. And then there was a discussion between Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya about the divinity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya at that time was a Mayavadi, and he was studying the Vedanta Sutra with an idea that God is ultimately impersonal. And Gopinath Acharya said, no, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so they had quite a discussion back and forth about the Lord. And one of the arguments that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his students gave was that the Lord doesn't appear in Kali Yuga. How can this be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And they said, no, he appears, but in a covered form. And they invoke this verse, Chana Kalao. He's covered in Kali Yuga. So he comes, but he comes as a devotee. He doesn't reveal himself here, there, and everywhere. And some of the acharyas explain that's because in Kali Yuga people become envious of God so much that if he appears as the all-opulent Supreme Personality of God, they're saying, nah, we don't like you. But if he comes as a humble devotee and shows the process himself, then they can all take to it. And so there's a whole plan in Kali Yuga. We're lucky to have come at this time in the Kali Yuga. Right in the 1970s, 80s, anyone born in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, anytime now in the Kali Yuga is a really good time to take birth. In fact, the Bhagavatam says that those who are intelligent know that they're called Sarabhagina. They know the essence of everything, and that is that in Kali Yuga, practically with very little effort, because of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you can get everything. In other ages, there were tedious processes of yoga, meditation, sacrifice required to come to the perfection of life. But in Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mercifully gives away love for God to those who simply chant Hare Krishna and worship His lotus feet. It's a simple process. He's the Chanakalau. So he's mentioned in the Bhagavatam by Prahlad Maharaj. And then number 5 from the Krishna Yamala Tantra, Punya Kshetre Navadvipe Vavishyami Sachi Sutta. I shall appear in the holy land of Navadvip as the son of Shachi Devi. Number 6 from the Vayu Purana, Kalu Sankirtanarambe Vavishyami Shachi Sutta. In the age of Kali, when the Sankirtan movement is inaugurated, I shall descend as the son of Shachi Devi. From the Brahma Yamala Tantra. From which Tantra? The Brahma Yamala. So if you want to quote that anywhere, just tell people, here's a verse from the Brahma Yamala Tantra. Atavaham daradhami bhutva madbhakta rupadrik mayayam cha bhavishyami kalo sankirtanagame. Sometimes I personally appear on the surface of the world in the garb of a devotee. Specifically, I appear as the son of Shachi in Kali Yuga to start the Sankirtan movement. From the Ananta Samhita. Which Samhita? Ya eva Bhagavan Krishno Radhika Pranavalabha Shrishyadao Sa Jagannatho Gaura Asin Maheshwari, the Supreme Person, Sri Krishna Himself, who is the life of Sri Radharani and is the Lord of the universe in creation, maintenance, and annihilation, appears as Gaura, O Maheshwari. Text number, if you'd like to text it, is 650-245-7018. Text number 23. Not that there's 23 texts, but this is the next text in the book. You got a text? Okay. What'd you
Avantika
get?
is sponsoring one Chaitanya.
Who is?
Avantika, Shyamlangi's daughter.
Avantika is sponsoring one case of
Chaitanya
Charitamrta. Let's hear it for Avantika.
Go.
Here you go. This one's for you, Avantika. Hare Krishna. So we have full sets of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta, the most important Vaishnava text in the world, and important for everyone to read in the Kali Yuga so they can understand the golden avatar and follow him. So we're giving these away practically for free. They're $99, which is pocket change these days. So try to come up with 5 or 10 cases to give out to your friends and relatives, and you'll be happy you did. Text in at 650-245-7018 and claim your case tonight. We'll take credit cards also. Text 23. Paravyomite Vaishe Narayana Nam Shat Aishvarya Purna Laki Kanta Bhagavan. Lord Narayan, who dominates the transcendental world, is full of 6 opulences. He is the personality of Godhead, the Lord of the goddess of fortune. Veda Bhagavat Upanishad Agama Purna Tato Jare Kohe Nahi Jar Sam. The personality of Godhead is He who is described as the absolute whole in the Vedas, Bhagavatam, Upanishads, and other transcendental literatures. No one is equal to Him. Purport. There are innumerable authoritative statements in the Vedas regarding the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Some of them are as follows. 1, from the Rig Samhita 122.20. Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sada Pashyanti Suryaha Diviva Chakshuratatam. The personality of Godhead Vishnu is the Absolute Truth, whose lotus feet all the demigods are always eager to see. Like the sun god, He pervades everything by the rays of His energy. He appears impersonal to imperfect eyes. 2, from the Narayana Atharva Shira Upanishad. Narayana Deva Samutpayante Narayanat Pravartante Narayane Praliyante Ata Nityo Narayana Narayana Evedam Sarvam Yad Bhutam Yachcha Bhavyam Shudho Deva Eko Narayana Na Dvitiyo Asti Kaschit. It is from Narayan only that everything is generated, by him only that everything is maintained, and in him only that everything is annihilated or will be created in the future is nothing but Narayan, who is the unadulterated deity. There is only Narayan and nothing else. From the Narayana Upanishad, Yata Prasuta Jagata Prasuti. Narayan is the source from whom all the universes emanate. From the Hayashirsha Pancharatra, Parabhatma Haredeva. Hari is the Supreme Lord. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narayanad Vidyadnyasya Brahmana Paramatmanaha Nishtam Arhata No Vaktum Yuyam Hi Brahma Vitamaha. O best of the Brahmanas, please tell us of the position of Narayan, who is also known as Brahman and Paramatma. And Stit Yudbhava Pralaya Heturasya Yat Swapna Jagara Shushuptishu Sadbahishcha Dehendriyasu Hridayani Charanti Yena Sanjivitani Tad Avehi Param Narendra. O King, know him who is causeless and yet is the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. He exists in the three states of consciousness, namely waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, as well as beyond them. He enlivens the body, the senses, the breath of life, and the heart, and thus they move. Know him to be the Supreme. Isn't that nice? And also that Narayan, there's these expansions that come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the Gita, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanvita. I'm the source of everything else. And that includes the various Narayans who create the material world at different phases. So Krishna expands himself into Balaram, and then Balaram into Sankarshan, and then Sankarshan into Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Vasudeva, did I say? Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. And then Mula Sankarshan, then the second expansions of the Chaturvyuha, and then Mahavishnu, who by his breathing emanates all the various universes, just by his breath. So 311 trillion year exhale. That's how big God is in the form of Mahavishnu, that when he exhales, it's at least 311 trillion years. That's befitting, because if we could circumscribe God and the idea of God just by our intelligence, then we would be sorely disappointed. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Very
Krishna,
nice to see you back here.
Nice to see you.
Prabhu, actually, like you were just mentioning about Lord Vishnu's breath, and somehow, it might be speculative, but like scientists, they think that there's a Big Bang theory, and then there's another theory which talks about, that there's a bang and then there's a compression, like, expansion, compression of the universe. So there might be some relationship to Lord Vishnu's breath, actually, because it's all like, he breathes out, so everything like expands out, and when he breathes in, everything contracts in. So some speculative thinking, but there might be something.
Yeah, maybe you could help him out in that way. Because generally, it is very speculative, because the idea of the Big Bang is that there's a point, and from that point, everything manifests. And as Sariputta Prabhu points out, there's a lot of points. Why doesn't the universe come out of all these different points? There's a intelligent cause behind. This is our contention. And yes, this is the whatever expansion and retraction is going on in the universe is coming from the cause of all causes. And that's the whole point of these verses, that Narayan is that cause. He's this unlimitedly large form. Yes, Shraddha Devi Dasi. We have a text that just came in.
So this is Vivan Avyukt and Parth Achyut. They are the sons of Bhakta Nikhil.
Yes.
And they'd like to sponsor a case of Chaitanya Charitamrita for Divya Mataji, who is Nikhil Prabhu's sister here in Mountain View.
Oh, how nice. Well, that's very nice. Thank you very much, Nikhil. And Vivan and Parth. Hare Krishna. This one's for you, Vivan and Parth. And for Nikhil's sister, who lives right down the road and doesn't yet have a set of Chaitanya Charitamrita. What a great idea. Wonderful. The text-in number is 650-245-7018. We're practically giving away sets of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita tonight for a mere $99. I don't know who set the price, but we're going to find out. We'll get to the bottom of this, and maybe, there'll be some kind of, we'll ask for reparation. Yes?
I will take a set for my...
Since we're giving them away anyway. Okay, Tree Shop. Let's hear it for Tree Shop. It's taking us a set of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita.
It's for my home. It's for my house in India, like parents.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. If you have relatives, if someone who has a house, if you have a second house, if you have an upstairs and a downstairs, we do this at our house. We have a set in every room, don't we, Nirkula? Yeah, we have a set for upstairs and one for downstairs. Definitely, because you don't want to have to run all the way. And frankly, I'm becoming more and more disillusioned with this electronic media. Frankly, I tried as hard as I could, but I can't get the same aesthetic experience holding on to, and I'm sorry, Steve Jobs, an iPad mini. It's very convenient for travel, but the aesthetic experience is just not the same reading on a flat screen. Holding the book. And I met, when I was in Chennai, I just happened at the Sunday program there to meet a young man who was an executive in an industry where they're making electronic books. And I said, so tell me frankly, how much longer do we have for paper books? And he goes, a lot longer. He said, I hate to say it because this is our industry. He said, but it's not going to go away anytime soon. He said, maybe you're looking at 20 years or something, but even we don't know that. But we're not planning for the demise of paper books. And there's a reason. Yes, let's hear it for the paper. One thing that I realized was that when you hold a paper book, it's got chapter by chapter. There's a finite number of words and pages in one book, and the mind can accommodate that. You can sit down with it and think, okay, I can absorb what's in this book. I can live with it. I can put it by my head when I sleep and so forth. And it's all in this one. Unit. But when you hold one of those iPads that's dealing with infinite numbers of infinite amounts of data, then it becomes a little overwhelming for the mind. You can't accommodate it as easily. That's my experience. Nirkula? The paintings aren't on the iPad? Just see. Well, that can be done. I mean, you can't. I do see that modern e-books also have, pictures in them and things like that. That's possible, but it's just not the same. The navigation is easier in a book. I find that to be true also. Sometimes, except for the searches and things like that. But it's kind of nice to get to know the book anyway. Yeah. Sundarananda?
I think even the prana gets disturbed when you see it.
That's the topmost reason. The prana gets disturbed. I like that because it's nothing you can actually prove one way or the other. Those kinds of arguments. People in Japan love that kind of stuff. It's the prana. And they go, okay, I'll take it on the basis of that. Now that's going to be our mantra, the prana. And if somebody says, well, I'll just get it electronically and say, your prana is going to get messed up. This will calm down your prana and give you full focus on the Lord, that other thing. It may mess up your prana. Yes, Vital.
And you can't put the iPad on the altar.
Yeah, I mean, you could. You could put it on the altar. Yeah, you could. I mean, I'm not against technology. I'm using it. I'm just saying it's important to have the book also. It's a deity. It's something has size and weight that you can hold. There's an aesthetic that you lose with the electronic. I think we should have both. I mean, any person nowadays is going to carry all the books with them electronically and use them. But I think there is an aesthetic. And I like the prana thing. I definitely noticed that. Yes, Shraddha Devi Dasi, did we get a text that came in? What does the text say?
Yeah, this is from Jim Varnador Prabhu.
Yes, Jim.
And he says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, I'm so glad you're back home safe. Please, is it possible to get a set of books sent down to me? I have $99 burning a hole in my pockets.
Thank you, Jim Varnador. Hare Krishna. Jim, this set's for you. It's got your name on it. We'll be sending it down to you. Yes, Hare Krishna. There's a little bit extra on shipping, but it's not much. We'll take care of that when we contact you. Thank you very much, Jim. Hare Krishna. Yes, Priya Kishori.
I was talking with Bharani Mataji, and I used to go to her home and study sometimes. And whenever I used to study on the computer, when I had the book, she would tell me to use the book because she had read an article that said, when you study from a book, you remember better than when you study from a computer screen. So, scientific.
That is scientific. We'll take it. Okay, good. Yes.
I think what Prabhu's point, there is a point to kind of note from his comment. When he was describing that the universe is expanding, and see what we purportedly describe by the expansion of the universe is like entropy, right? Which is always increasing. So right now, since Mahavishnu is exhaling, so we see the expansion throughout. We don't see the contraction aspect of it. So when he pulls it back, so scientists will find the universe they will come up with another formula called which we haven't yet observed right now. So I'm just saying there is a point to what his comment was about. Right? So,
Yeah, I thought it was a good point.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's probably may have been mentioned, but one benefit of the book over the electronic is you can make notes on the book, you can have bookmarks, you can point those out. Besides, it's perfectly, yes, exactly, my point like this. And besides, it's very easy on eyes. That's one other
true.
point.
Of course, the new Kindle Paperwhite is also supposed to be easier on your eyes. So that's better than the glary kind of screen. But I've marked up my books for many years and sometimes felt a little guilty about it. But then when we were reading in the Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, we found that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur thoroughly marked his books also. And now I don't feel bad. I'm vindicated. Any other points? Yes. What is your name?
Yeah, my name is Gauthier.
Gauthier, nice to meet you.
So reading a book is totally anonymous and no metrics will be collected while you are doing that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Otherwise, every move you make is recorded. And you can be traced wherever you go, carrying your device, basically. I'm all for that, being anonymous these days. Okay. Now, the great Mahavishnu expands the universes from the pores of his skin, and then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters within each one of the individual universes and fills up half the universe with his perspiration. And then Kshirodakshaya Vishnu enters within every particle and every atom in the heart of all living entities and so forth. There's also a Vaikuntha planet within each universe called Shwetadweep, where the Lord resides. Once a devotee, Pushkar Prabhu, when he was distributing books in Los Angeles, California, said he met an older gentleman who was watching him distribute books. He was a little skeptical. He came over. He goes, "All right, what do you got?" And he said, "These are books about God." And he said, "Let me see." And he started going through page by page, looking at the Back to Godhead magazine. And he said, "You know, this stuff's so weird, you got to be telling the truth." And so the story of Mahavishnu through his breathing and so forth. I mean, this is inconceivable. One simply takes from the source of knowledge, the Shastra, how the universe is coming to being. We can't see it from our perspective. And yes, Sundarananda.
No, even the scientists, Prabhu, they have the idea that from the Christianity, they have the idea it's too simplified actually, and that's one of the reasons that they are not able to accept.
But you mean that they're not able to talk reasonably with scientists? They say young Earth, it's 6,000 years old.
Yes, and God created the earth. But if from our scriptures like the Bhagavatam, which describes in so many great detail about how from Mahatattva, one element is created, and from that, sky is created, and then electricity, water. It's like it goes like into so much detail that maybe if we present, if they come to know about the details and how complex it is, the creation is. I mean, they may suspend their disbelief.
Some may.
To some extent.
But in the Brahma Samhita, there's a lot of detail about the various phases of creation of the universe. Romapad Maharaj gave an excellent class on Lord Nityananda's appearance day in Mayapur. And he said he had studied recently the Sri Brahma Samhita for about 25 hours. And he had a lot of details about the creation. And you're absolutely right. There's not a lot of detail in being presented by other religious groups about how the world is actually created. But you'll find in every Purana there's a description, albeit sometimes it's a brief description, but in other scriptures it's very detailed about how the creation actually takes place from Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya, and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Bhakti Yoge Bhakta Pai Jahar Darshan Surya Jaina Savigraha Deki Devagan. Through their service, devotees see that personality of Godhead just as the denizens of heaven see the personality of the sun. Through their service, devotees see the personality of Godhead just as the denizens of heaven see the personality of the sun. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead has His eternal form, which cannot be seen by material eyes or mental speculation. Only by transcendental devotional service can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord. The comparison is made here to the qualifications for viewing the personal features of the sun god. The sun god is a person who, although not visible to our eyes, is seen from the higher planets by the demigods, whose eyes are suitable for seeing through the glaring sunshine that surrounds him. Every planet has its own atmosphere according to the influence of the arrangement of material nature. It is therefore necessary to have a particular type of bodily construction to reach a particular planet. The inhabitants of earth may be able to reach the moon, but the inhabitants of heaven can reach even the fiery sphere called the sun. What is impossible for man on earth is easy for the demigods in heaven because of their different bodies. Similarly, to see the Supreme Lord, one must have the spiritual eyes of devotional service. The personality of Godhead is unapproachable by those who are habituated to speculation about the absolute truth in terms of experimental scientific thought, without reference to the transcendental vibration. I'll read that again. The personality of Godhead is unapproachable by those who are habituated to speculation about the absolute truth in terms of experimental scientific thought, without reference to the transcendental vibration. The ascending approach to the absolute truth ends in the realization of impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma, but not the supreme transcendental personality. So one must give reference to the transcendental vibration. That is mentioned in many places, but Caitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the verse Stane stita shrutikatam tanavan manobir. I mean, he accepted it from Ramananda Roy when he was asking about the process which is perfect for understanding God, and Ramananda Roy gave various suggestions, and then said that by submissively hearing the transcendental sound from the Bhagavatam, one can come to the perfectional stage of life. So this is the main process for understanding God, hearing from the pure devotees and from the Shastra about the spiritual world. Then one can ascertain, by hearing the vibration, everything becomes known to the person. I was listening to a class the other night by a devotee in Los Angeles. I watched Keshav Bharti Maharaj's class online, and then I switched over to Los Angeles on Mayapur TV, and a devotee named Ganesh, who leads out the Harinam party in Los Angeles, was giving class. I'd never heard him give class before, and it was a great class. I couldn't listen to the whole thing, but the part I did listen to, I was very impressed with. And then I was thinking that because he chants Hare Krishna all the time, he can't be without knowledge. One who chants the vibration, stays in touch with the transcendental vibration in the correct mentality, which is this vibration is coming from the spiritual world, it's non-different from God, and so forth, will imbibe the knowledge, and that person will be fortified with not only all good qualities, but also will have a clear understanding of the absolute truth just by that process. Even if you don't do anything else, the vibration is so powerful. And especially in this age, Jiva Goswami proves through the Shastra and the Tattva Sandarbha that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost of all praman, or evidence of the spiritual world. And that is because Srila Vyasadeva particularly gave the Smriti that explains and unpacks the Shruti for the Kali Yuga. And it is easily understandable, and it completes the Vedic conclusion. Just as a bangle, which is made of gold, may have a gap in it. And the Shastras said that the Puranas, the Itihasas, means the Smriti, completes that Shruti, the original Vedas. And just the way a gold bangle is filled. And so it means that it's the same. Because you can't use a different substance to fill a gold bangle. It has to be the same in order to actually do it correctly. So that's their point. And so we have access to that through the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's the most recommended process for advancing in spiritual life, to hear directly from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, in the previous verse, the last sentence, it said that through the ascending process, one can come till the Brahman and the Paramatma feature. That itself was a bit surprising to me, because I was thinking that what exactly is this ascending process? Is it the one work which the scientists are doing, or is it referred to the yoga process? Either way, I was surprised that they can even come even to the Paramatma realization. So
yeah, well, in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada gives a long explanation of how one can come in contact with the Supersoul. It's just we're making too much noise to hear him right now. There's a lot of noise coming from the mind, and I'm following it everywhere it goes. Just notice sometime. But he tells how through introspection, if you sit and you notice that you're not your body, and then you notice that there's intelligence coming into your mental system, you can actually begin to experience the Supersoul. He calls it the form direction. Intelligence is the form direction of the Supersoul. And as far as the Brahman is concerned, through the process of negation, one comes to the conclusion of Brahman. And this is called neti neti. Not this, not that. Everything in the material world, all the elements in the material world are not the supreme. So you eliminate until you come to the conclusion of Brahman. And this can be done through a ascending mental or intellectual process. And this is generally the point that one comes through. And the Supersoul can be realized to some extent by for instance, the Ashtanga process, which requires first becoming morally sound. So if you're a liar and a cheater, you won't be able to sit down and meditate and introspect because you'll have to worry about making up for all the lies and the cheating you've done. And then you also have to become pure in body and mind and follow regulations so your body becomes calmed down, your mind calms down. Then you have to practice asana, and then breathing, and then meditation, and so forth. And then one can, through that's an ascending process. One can come to appreciate that the Supersoul is there next to you in the heart. But understanding Bhagavan, that's another topic. That's another process altogether. One can only achieve that by the mercy of a pure devotee, because it's wholly unattainable by speculation. That means it's personality, the personality of God. And in commonsensical way, if someone comes to you and wants to simply observe you, and is looking at, like paparazzis coming to look at you and take pictures and things like that, it's not like you're going to tell them everything about your life and reveal what's in your apartment and the kinds of friends you have and all that kind of thing. You'll just try to get away from them. Gyanis come and they observe the Supreme. They try to look at him with their intelligence and so forth. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I reveal myself because to Arjuna because you're my devotee. And that's the qualification. If someone loves Krishna, if someone loves you, you'll begin to reveal yourself to them. If there's unmotivated love and service that someone comes and gives you, they don't want your knowledge even. Not they even want to know what you know, because then they'll become great. So sometimes people go to a saint because they think, hey, you're doing pretty good. I want to be like you. Tell me what you know. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to learn it, and then I'm going to be, a saint. Even that, the saint's not going to open his heart. But if someone comes and just out of gratitude and appreciation serves that person, and then he can open his heart, and the contents of the heart will run out to that servitor. That's why Krishna says in the Gita, Tadvidi pranipatena priprashnena sevaya upadakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. That these qualifications that you must be, you come in a mood of surrender, and you have to render service, and then inquire and things like that. Then you can contact. In any case, stane stita shrutigatam tanuvan manobir ye prayaso jita jito pyasitais trilokyam. Brahma says that one can know the Supreme only by this process of submissive hearing and service. And then he says, he studied the Vedas 3 times. This is in the Bhagavatam. He studied the Vedas 3 times thoroughly, and Brahma is smarter than anybody. His SATs are not calculable. First time, he heard karma. Second time, he heard gyan. Third time, bhakti. So sometimes you have to go into the topic more deeply, and itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam katanam paradaivatena mayashritanam nardarakena sakam vrijaru krita punya punja. You know that verse? Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya. So this is a description by Shukadev Goswami in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, where he says that those who consider Krishna to be an ordinary person, or those who are in Maya, they consider Krishna to be an ordinary person. Those who approach him through Gyan and so forth, they realize him as the impersonal Brahman. Sakam vrijaru krita punya punja. Which page? 54? 254 in your shloka book. Yeah, 254 in your shloka book, and those of you online at the internet, if you don't have this shloka book, you can text in, and we have this available also. How much are these? $50? Oh, $16. Wow, that's quite a discount. Okay, so if you don't have one, you should have one at home so you can follow along in the classes. We'll package that up for you along with your full set of Caitanya Charitamrita. It was only $99. Okay, so what page? 252. 254. We can look at this beautiful verse from Shukadeva Goswami. It's 10.12.11 in the Bhagavatam. All say, please repeat. Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena maya shitanam naradarakena sakam vijaru krita punya punjaha. The translation, those who are engaged in self-realization, appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, those who are engaged in self-realization, appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, and those engaged in devotional service, accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, as well as those who are under the clutches of Maya, thinking the Lord an ordinary person, cannot understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as cowherd boys. So dasyam gatanam paradarakena means in Vaikuntha there's an understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as of their approach. But to actually understand Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, one must follow the residents of Vrindavan. There's no other alternative. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach, that the residents of Rajadam are the spontaneous love of these devotees is the pinnacle of devotion to God, and that one must follow in their footsteps in order to attain that realm. And this subject of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which comes to the culmination of the description of the Supreme Personality of God in the 10th canto, and also the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, in which Uttara, the mother of Maharaj Parikshit, ascertains that there's this special kind of devotion that devotees render, which is beyond just official devotion, beyond just duty, beyond the kind of reverential. There's this kind of spontaneous love. She said, therefore, there must be a special place where this takes place. There must be some place where these kinds of devotees enact this type of devotional service. And Parikshit Maharaj was very impressed with his mother that you've understood there must be this kind of, because there is this kind of devotee, there must be a place for it. So then he goes on to describe the actual place where that kind of devotion is enacted, and it's Goloka Vrindavan, the highest realm. The question came in by text.
There's a question and a comment and a sponsor.
Great.
So we'll go with the sponsor first.
Okay.
Bal Mukund Prabhu actually texted Malini Mataji to say he's also wanting to.
Bal Mukunda Prabhu, ki jai. Bal Mukunda Prabhu. Here's your set of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Has your name on it. Thank you very much, Bal Mukunda. Very wise choice.
And Nikhil Prabhu says he thanks you for such a nice class. I really enjoyed hearing the explanation of Mahamrigam and also how Mahaprabhu was carried away like ants. Carry food. That was
nice.
So refreshing. And the question is from Parthasarthi Prabhu. He says that if we can get pure devotional service from the spiritual master, why is it that we maintain offenses?
Why is it that we
maintain offenses?
Why do we maintain offenses?
Yeah.
Why should one maintain offenses? That's not.
I guess why do we have?
Why does one continue to make offenses?
Yeah.
Well, offenses come from because of various reasons. One can commit offenses, and generally because of tendencies that are there within the heart since a time immemorial. There are obstacles that must be overcome in the process of anartha nivritti. And some of them, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, are there because of our conditioning over many, many lifetimes. And therefore there are things like lust and greed and so forth that are may disturb us and may cause us to cause offenses. But offense has to be egregious, must be perpetrated with some sense of malice. There are ways in which one commits offenses, but they're not considered very much by Vaishnavas or by the spiritual master because, if someone's giving guidance to someone in Krishna consciousness, he or she would understand that the person's got to struggle for some time. And it's generally the case that everyone has some complexity in their life and also some conditioning. And those who have practiced Krishna consciousness for a long time may have seen it in their own life also. And then they may, if they're taking care of others, see it in the lives of others that people take enthusiastically to devotional service and then seemingly for no good reason they give it up and then they come back again. Because what else are they going to do? There's nowhere else to go. And people realize that. They may become temporarily bewildered by Maya and taken away again. And in the process, they may commit some offense. But generally, those who are on the path of devotional service are very careful about avoiding offenses. And etiquette helps in that even if one doesn't feel like acting in a certain way, there are rules of etiquette that help us. There's a culture, in fact, in the devotional culture that we have, the Daivi Varnashram. In fact, we bow down to devotees. That culture is not as prevalent as it used to be. In fact, in the early days of ISKCON, everyone used to bow down to everyone. And I remember once when I went to Vrindavan, it was probably in 1976 or something like that. I bought these knee pads and I put them on my devotee because I had a goal to offer obeisances to everyone I saw. And I thought, my knees can't handle this, but I wore these knee pads underneath. And but that was the culture at the time. And that's there specifically so that we can avoid offenses. And there are etiquettes in the way that we talk to devotees. We refer to other devotees as Prabhu, because Prabhu means master. Lord Caitanya is called Prabhu. Prabhu kahe, the Lord said. So it's meaningful, actually. It's not that just men are Prabhus and women are Mataji. It's not like a gender distinction. We're saying it because actually we're feeling that these are rare souls we're living with. And so one should be very careful not to make offenses. And if one's trying to avoid offenses and accidentally makes offenses, those aren't considered very much. In fact, Rishabhadev instructed his sons that if one's a spiritual master, the spiritual master should be very forgiving of the mistakes of the disciple because they'll be inevitable. And he must continue giving instruction without becoming angry, he said. Even if there are these mistakes. Yes?
I was reading Shrutakirti Prabhu's book, What's the Difficulty? And he shares the same sentiments like you. And he said that, because he was the personal servant of Srila Prabhupada, there were very high chances of him committing offenses against him. And every now and then in the book, he is so full of gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for having forgiven him for making so many offenses and still continuing to instruct him in that position.
Nice. Very practical, yeah. Good. So did we get all three? Fantastic. And the text-in number, by the way, for all of you who have joined us online, we welcome you. If you'd like to send in a text, and we'd love to hear from you, the text number is 650-245-7018. Don't think it'll disturb the class. It won't. We're eager to hear from you. So the next verse says, those who walk the paths of knowledge and yoga worship only Him, for it is Him they perceive as the impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. Purport. Those who are fond of mental speculation, Gyan Marg, or want to meditate in mystic yoga to find the absolute truth must approach the impersonal effulgence of the Lord and His partial representation respectively. Such persons cannot realize the eternal form of the Lord. Thus one may understand the glories of the Lord through different modes of worship, as the analogy of the sun illustrates. Narayan and Sri Krishna are the same personality of Godhead, but although they are identical, their bodily features are different. This personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has 2 hands and holds a flute, whereas the other, Narayan, has 4 hands with conch, wheel, mace, and lotus. Purport. Narayan is identical to Sri Krishna. They are in fact the same person manifested differently, like a high court judge who is differently situated in his office and at home. As Narayan, the Lord is manifested with 4 hands, but as Krishna, He is manifested with 2 hands. Just so we get this point, reiterate that Narayan and Krishna are the same, but they're manifested differently, as Prabhupada said here, just like a high court judge in his office or at home. This is a nice analogy to remember, because sometimes people want to know, are there many gods? Are they different? No, there's only one, but He exhibits His different moods and has different forms according to His different moods. When you go to of course nowadays it's hard to tell, because if you go to Google, you just wear shorts and a t-shirt, right? Isn't it? Doesn't work as well as it used to. In Japan, everyone has to wear a black suit and carry the same briefcase, same pointed shoes. In California, you can, but when they come home, they can be in a different mood. So that's the idea. And in his official position as Narayan and so forth, he has this four-armed form. But as Krishna, he's got bare feet, and he's playing a flute. And Prabhupada said, if Krishna's a flute player, Giriraj Maharaj told us, Prabhupada said, Krishna's a flute player means Krishna's all play and no business. All play and no work. Yes.
Is that true with the Lord's other incarnations? So like Narayana and Krishna is the same person. Is that also true for Lord's other incarnations like Lord Varaha, Lord Vamana?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked that, because that's coming up. And this statement will be made by Kaviraj Goswami, that some people say the Supreme is Lord Varaha, some people say he's Vaman directly. He said, but all these statements are true, because it's this one absolute truth, right? Just in different moods. Yes?
So is this understanding correct, that they are all the same personalities and they're just in different manifestations? So if they wanted to exhibit certain features, they could?
Well, all of the incarnations of the Lord are present within the body of Lord Sri Krishna, who is Swayam Bhagavan. And there are various expansions of Krishna is the fountainhead of all the different incarnations. And he expands himself into these various incarnations. But they all reside within his body. For instance, when he's in Vrindavan, then all the different incarnations are there, because they're there within the body of Swayam Bhagavan. But then the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, which was written by Rupa Goswami and which is also represented in the Madhya Lila, the Caitanya Charitamrita, in the teachings from Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, or to Rupa Goswami, gives a delineation of the various forms that Krishna manifests into, and there are some distinctions between those various forms. So generally, Krishna, we hear of the manifestations of Nrsimha and Varaha and so forth. We don't hear about a lot of special pastimes. that they have, except for the main pastimes that we hear that they enact. Whereas Krishna, that we hear 4 of his special qualities that none of the other Narayans have are, one of them is Lila Madhurya. And then he has these sweet pastimes, and they're unlimited. I mean, you hear about Krishna doing all kinds of things, stealing butter and, wrecking people's houses when he's a kid, and killing demons and so forth. They're very charming and mysterious, these kinds of pastimes. And that's a characteristic of Krishna that you won't find in the other manifestations of the Lord.
Though they are the same person.
Pardon me?
Though they are the same person.
They're emanations from the original personality of Godhead. But they have special form and function according to their relationship with various devotees. And that's really the ultimate reason for the different varieties of forms of the Lord is he accommodates the various devotees of the Lord, because everyone has a unique relationship with him.
Thank you, bro.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In one of the purports, I read that it was mentioned that although plenary expansions, plenary means equal in potency, but basically it's one way to understand would be just like one candle lights up the other candle, still that one candle is still the original. So that was mentioned in that one purport.
Yeah. Did you get that in the Bhakti Shastri class?
Yes.
Nice verse from the Brahma Samhita, right? Departure eva hita shantanama bipetya dipayate vrivita heta samana dharma yas tadrageva hita vishnu chaya vibhati govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. One candle, it's equally manifested in other, but there's the original candle from whom all the other candles expand. Krishna's pastimes are unique and not seen anywhere else in the other manifestations of the Lord. There's something special about Krishna that's not there in the other manifestations of Krishna. So it's not that. So Krishna's Swayam Bhagavan in that he's special. He's the original. And for instance, what's special when Krishna kills demons, they get vimukti. They can attain the highest perfection when Krishna kills them. That's not always true when Narayan kills demons. But when Krishna kills Putana, for instance, she gets this kind of liberation as in Goloka, a certain kind of part of Goloka, Vrindavan. And that's unique in his pastimes. Yes.
Prabhu, just a question based on the last point you made. So, from what I have heard is, when the Lord kills any demon, then all the karma is vanquished, and then they get at least liberation, or the Vaikuntha planets. And so, when it is described in Ramayana, whomever the arrows of Lord Ram touched, they all got purified and they got liberated.
Yeah, when you're killed by God, you definitely get special benediction, but purification and so forth. But the Acharyas, especially Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, points out in Krishna's pastimes, the liberation is very special. Yeah.
So it's about attaining Golok Vrindavan, right? That's the
yes,
speciality.
Like Putana is an example. Although she came to kill Krishna, she attained a position as one of his mothers, a kind of a mother in the spiritual world.
And this is also from one of the purports in Nectar of Devotion, that you can, by getting killed by the Lord, you can get to the kingdom of the Lord, but there's a difference between entering the kingdom and entering the palace of the Lord.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there are different stages of liberation. Some are better than others. Okay, a couple more verses. Do you have the Parama Karuna? Oh, how nice. Okay, first a couple verses. Thus one may understand the glories of the Lord through different modes of worship, as the analogy of the sun illustrates. I said that. Okay. Of the Lord, O Lord of Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. Are you not therefore my father, Narayan? Narayan refers to one whose abode is in the water born from Nara, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and that Narayan is your plenary portion. All your plenary portions are transcendental, they are absolute, and are not creations of Maya. Purport. This statement, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-14, was spoken by Lord Brahma in his prayers to Lord Krishna after the Lord had defeated him by displaying his mystic powers. Brahma had tried to test Lord Krishna to see if he were really the Supreme Personality of Godhead playing as a cowherd boy. Brahma stole all the other boys and their calves from the pasturing grounds. But when he returned to the pastures, he saw that all the boys and calves were still there, for Lord Krishna had created them all again. When Brahma saw this mystic power of Lord Krishna's, he admitted defeat and offered prayers to the Lord, addressing him as the proprietor and seer of everything in the creation, and as the supersoul who is within each and every living entity and is dear to all. That Lord Krishna is Narayan, the father of Brahma. Because Lord Krishna's plenary expansion, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, after placing himself on the Garbha ocean, created Brahma from his own body. Mahavishnu in the causal ocean and Kshirdakshai Vishnu, the supersoul in everyone's heart, are also transcendental expansions of the Absolute Truth. Text 31. After Brahma had offended Krishna by stealing his playmates and calves, he begged the Lord's pardon for his offensive act and prayed for the Lord's mercy. Quote, I took birth from the lotus that grew from your navel, thus you are both my father and my mother, and I am your son. Parents never take seriously the offenses of their children. I therefore beg your pardon and ask for your benediction. Sri Krishna said, O Brahma, your father is Narayan. I am but a coward boy. How can you be my son? Brahma replied, Are you not Narayan? You are certainly Narayan. Please listen as I state the proofs. 36. All the living beings within the material and spiritual worlds are ultimately born of you, for you are the super soul of them all. Purport. The cosmic manifestation is generated by the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The transcendental world has no such material modes, although it is nevertheless full of spiritual variegatedness. In that spiritual world, we're hearing about the spiritual world. This is unique in Silicon Valley at this particular time of the evening, I think. In that spiritual world, there are also innumerable living entities who are eternally liberated souls engaged in transcendental loving service to Lord Krishna. The conditioned souls who remain within the material cosmic creation are subjected to the threefold miseries and pangs of material nature. They exist, don't mind, but please look up pang, because it's such a... They exist in different species of life because they are eternally averse to the transcendental loving devotion of the Lord. Sankarsana is the original source of all living entities because they are all expansions of his marginal potency. Some of them are conditioned by material nature, whereas others are under the protection of the spiritual nature. The material nature is a conditional manifestation of spiritual nature, just as smoke is a conditional stage of fire. Smoke is dependent on fire, but in a blazing fire there is no place for smoke. Smoke disturbs, but fire serves. The serving spirit of the resonance of the transcendental world is displayed in 5 varieties of relationships with the Supreme Lord, who is the central enjoyer. In the material world, everyone is a self-centered enjoyer of mundane happiness and distress. One considers himself the Lord of everything and tries to enjoy the illusory energy, but he is not successful because he is not independent. He is but a minute particle of the energy of Lord Sankarsana. All living beings exist under the control of the Supreme Lord, who is therefore called Narayan. What is a pang?
Pang is a noun. One meaning is a sudden feeling of mental or emotional distress or longing. a pang of remorse, a pang of desire. The second is a sudden, brief, sharp pain or physical sensation, spasm like hunger pangs. The origin is uncertain, somewhere between 1495 and 1505.
That's when pangs came into...
Yeah.
Anyway, all of the above. Sharp pains in the body and also sudden feelings of emotion that disturb one's mind. Things like that. These pangs come to one in the material world. So this is Sambandha Gyan. We're getting here perfect knowledge about where we emanate from, what our relationship is to the Supreme Lord and so forth. What else?
It also says loneliness. It also lists loneliness.
Pangs of loneliness.
Loneliness, yes. I was just thinking from the Sambandha Gyan, when we are separated from Krishna.
Nice
Perhaps
point.
it comes from German language, it says that.
Pang. And we heard last night that one who begins to understand that one's life in the material world is awkward, begins to distance oneself from the fruit of activity, that is, trying to become more situated, more solidly situated in the material world. It's an awkward place no matter what you do. And there are pangs. As the earth is the original cause and shelter of all pots made of earth, so you are the ultimate cause and shelter of all living beings. Purport. As the vast earth is the source for the ingredients of all earthen pots, so the Supreme Soul is the source for the complete substance of all individual living entities. The cause of all causes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of the living entities. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.10, where the Lord says, Bija mam sarva bhutanam, I am the seed of all living entities. And in the Upanishads, which say, Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam, the Lord is the supreme leader among all eternal living beings. It's such a nice point because everyone needs a leader. I see in Bangkok, when I fly through Bangkok, I notice that there are big pictures of the king and queen at the airport. And at shops along the road, they sell pictures of the king and queen. People wear them around their neck. You can't blaspheme the king there. You can't go on CNN like people do in America and start saying foul things about the president or something like that. You can't do that in that country. They have a king. Even in UK, you can't mail a letter and put the stamp, which has a picture of the queen, upside down. They won't mail it for you. There's this sense that here's our leader, and they're careful about that. And everywhere we go, I mean, even in America, as irreverent as people are nowadays toward any kind of political leader, and for good reason, there's still a sense that everyone wants to see the perfect leader emerge somehow, and they become, although less and less nowadays, shocked when some moral turpitude comes out, and they realize that the person is not what they expected. They want somebody perfect to follow. They want a saint, and then this is the nature of the living entity, to want to follow, the perfect leader. So the Lord is that perfect leader, and one can fix one's mind on the Lord. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam. He's the leader of all living entities. He's the maintainer of all living entities as well. And this is one of the stages of surrender, to really meditate on this and take shelter of Krishna as one's maintainer, not consider that one's maintenance is coming from anywhere else except from the Supreme Lord. The Lord is the reservoir of all cosmic manifestation, animate and inanimate. The advocates of the Vasishtha-Dvaitavad philosophy explain the Vedanta Sutra by saying that although the living entity has two kinds of bodies, subtle, consisting of mind, intelligence, and false ego, and gross, consisting of the 5 basic elements, and although he thus lives in 3 bodily dimensions, gross, subtle, and spiritual, he is nevertheless a spiritual soul. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who emanates the material and spiritual worlds, is the Supreme Spirit. As an individual spirit soul is almost identical to his gross and subtle bodies, so the Supreme Lord is almost identical to the material and spiritual worlds. The material world full of conditioned souls trying to lord it over matter is a manifestation of the external energy of the Supreme Lord. And the spiritual world full of perfect servitors of the Lord is a manifestation of his internal energy. Since all living entities are minute sparks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the Supreme Soul in both the material and spiritual worlds. The Vaishnavas following Lord Caitanya stress the doctrine of Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, which states that the Supreme Lord, being the cause and effect of everything, is inconceivably, simultaneously one with his manifestations of energy and different from them. Do you feel more satisfied than when you came in from hearing the vibration of the... Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, hey, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman.